Shall we begin our service of worship by sharing in the Pledge of Allegiance? Let us stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to this republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Before I open with a prayer of invocation, I want to welcome us all to a really historic event. It is one of the longest running Memorial Day celebrations in the United States. And always we have people to thank for its continuation and organization. Chief among them is Bruce Charbonneau, who has spearheaded today's organization, and also Jane Labruto for helping with bulletin and logistics and all the other good things she does. Thank you to our speakers and Tom and our musicians, and most of all, thanks to each and every one of you, because without you, we would not have the longevity of this tradition. We're going to start with worship, which I think is amazing and special. We are contemplating a parade, which means that at the end of the service, we're going to put it up for a vote in good congregational style. So be thinking about how you feel about going up to the cemetery. And whether we do or whether we don't, there is an invitation to everyone for an indoor picnic here at the Dorset Church. Let us bow our heads as I offer invocation. With heartfelt praise, we remember souls, the souls of those who gave their lives in protection and progression of the values we hold dear: freedom, democracy, justice, and loving kindness in families, in towns, in societies. But on this day, we also gather to strengthen the soul of our community, to continue Dorset's historic Memorial Day tradition, to gather young and old to pass on heritage, to weave together ourselves in greater unity and reverence. So bless this event, O God. Bless our souls. Deepen our gratitude for our service women and men. Safeguard those in faraway lands who secure us. Visit solace and hope to their loved ones at home. Heal the wounded and disabled as they return to regular living. And most of all, let us never love war and always be agents of peace and justice. In the name of the one whom we worship and the spirit of all we call sacred. Amen.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Charbonneau, and I'm very blessed to be that this is the 23rd year that we've had this ceremony. So, first of all, I'd like to welcome each of you to our Memorial Day celebration. This is our day in Dorset, when we honor those soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, and Coast Guard who gave their lives in the defense of our country. Listening to the radio the other day, I heard a country singer named Lee Greenwood. And it reminded me of what Memorial Day is really all about. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. This Memorial Day, we honor all those ordinary people who ascended to the extraordinary by picking up the tools of war in the name of freedom. Some died in combat, others from wounds afterwards, and still others after a time of living in peace that they fought so hard for to win. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone in the audience today who has served our country and our armed forces to please rise. And as we go around this special group, please share with us your name, the branch you served, and the years you served. So at this time, if you've served, could you please rise? I'd like to start with Joe.
Joseph Sizer, Manchester, United States Marine Corps, and also my son, Joseph Jr., who's been here with us in the past. He's currently serving in Syria with the U.S. Army.
Thank you, Joe. Sir?
Roger Squire. I was in the Army from 1962 to 1964. I served in Turkey.
Let's see if this is working.
And,
Yes, it is. Let's take it around.
Sorry, Joe.
My name is John Pitcher, and I was in the Army, and I served in 101st Airborne in Vietnam from May of '69 to June of '70.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Do you want to speak again?
Dick Kloss, served in the United States Army and discharged in 1967.
Orland Campbell served in the United States Army from 1963 to 1967, Vietnam, Thailand, Taiwan.
Bill Giles, U.S. Navy, 1955 to 59.
Brooks Robbins, U.S. Army, 1956, active, followed by 4 years in the reserves, discharged in 62.
Mr. Lindsay. Sir.
You'll probably hear about it later. I'm Al Lindsay. I was in the United States Navy, and I served from 68 to 72.
And my name is Bruce Charbonneau. I'm a retired first sergeant. I served 22 years in the United States Marine Corps, and it's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you to all the veterans. Thank you.
Shall we sing our opening hymn, My Country, 'Tis of Thee? The words are printed in the bulletin. My country, 'tis of thee, free land of liberty, of thee I sing. And where my
Good afternoon. Let me preface my duties here today with a sincere and respectful thank you to all the veterans who previously stood that are here today, and of course, in the spirit of Memorial Day, those who are not with us today because they gave their lives to defend our freedom. President Abraham Lincoln's memorable address followed on the heels of a 2-hour speech by orator Edward Everett. In a few short minutes, Lincoln's stirring words resonated with the audience and remain as relevant today as they did 161 years ago. The Gettysburg Address is perhaps the greatest speech given by an American president. It is an honor to be asked to read it to you again today. This is a speech on the occasion of the dedication of the National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, November 19th, 1863. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that the nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, but this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and then government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start to list the names of the soldiers that served their country and died for their country, I'd just like to tell you a quick little story. I started working here 25 years ago, and Jim Gilbert used to read the roll call, as I believe he was the one who put it together. And then after a while, when Jim was no longer able to do it, he passed it on to Peter Davis. And just a couple of years ago, Peter Davis said, "Oh, Jane, you're going to be here forever. Can you be the person who reads the roll call?" And so I think it was such an honor to be asked as a woman who didn't serve to be able to read the roll call. And I just want to give a moment to Peter Davis, who passed away this year, that he gave me the honor of giving me the roll call. And so I begin. William Crandall died of yellow fever on his way home from war with Mexico in 1848. Charles B. Tufts died of pulmonary tuberculosis December 8, 1861, in Camp Griffith, Virginia. Ebenezer L. Beebe died of typhoid fever January 21, 1862, Nelson Hill Hospital Camp, Griffin, Virginia. Benjamin F. Stafford died of disease February 2, 1862, Camp Griffin, Virginia. Louis Campo, killed in action June 29, 1862, Savage Station, Virginia. Henry J. Heald died July 2, 1862, from wounds received June 29, Savage Station, Virginia. Hiram Hazelton died of disease September 7, 1862, New Orleans, Louisiana. Nathan A. Robinson died of fever September 27, 1862, Alexandria, Virginia. Myron Hazelton died of dysentery January 5, 1863, Pensacola, Florida. Hiram's brother, 2 other brothers in that company, survived. Edgar T. Sexton died of lung fever June 24, 1863, Wolf Run, Shoals, Virginia. Thomas Burns, killed in action July 3, 1863, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. William Horan, discharged for disability February 23, 1863, died of consumption September 16, 1863, in Dorset, Vermont. John McEwen died of typhoid fever January 7, 1864, Regimental Hospital, Fort Slocum, Washington, D.C. John Potter died of typhoid fever January 9, 1864, Regimental Hospital, Fort Slocum, Washington, D.C. Herman Jones died of rheumatism March 15, 1864, Regimental Hospital, Fort Slocum, Washington, D.C. Waldo E. Barrows and Horace S. Hill, both killed in action, Battle of the Wilderness, Virginia, May 5, 1864. Henry Cota, killed in action, May 12, 1864, Spotsylvania, Virginia. William W. Harwood, killed in action, June 5, 1864, Cold Harbor, Virginia. Marquis D. Smith died August 1, 1864, Petersburg, Virginia, of wounds received on July 30th. Mark H. Smith died of wounds August 1st, 1864, Petersburg, Virginia. Bella Fisher died of disease August 21st, 1864, U.S. Hospital, Alexandria, Virginia. William Jackson Fuller, captured June 29, 1864, Petersburg, Virginia, died August 25, 1864, prison camp, Andersonville, Georgia. Andrew J. Sprout, captured May 12, 1864, Spotsylvania, Virginia, died of chronic diarrhea September 4, 1864, prison camp, Andersonville, Georgia. Alan W. Lake died in service September 22, 1864, U.S. General Hospital, Montpelier, Vermont. Edward McEwen, captured June 14, 1864, Virginia, died of disease September 22, 1864, prison camp, Andersonville, Georgia. William Colvin, captured June 23, 1864, Wheaton Railroad, south of Petersburg, Virginia, died October 18, 1864, prison camp, Mullen, Georgia. George Stannard, wounded June 3rd, 1864, Bethesda Church, Virginia, and September 30th, 1864, Poplar Spring, Georgia, Virginia, died of wounds October 21st, 1864. Silas Reed, captured August 21st, 1864, near Petersburg, Virginia, paroled, died of disease October 24th, 1864, Camp Parole, Maryland. Walter Nichols died of typhoid fever December 18th, 1864, Winchester, Virginia. Gilbert Thomas died of chronic diarrhea December 22nd, 1864, Baltimore, Maryland. Henry R. Dunton died January 23rd, 1865, Post Hospital, Columbia, Tennessee. Charles Horace Nichols, absent sick from 1864, discharged for disability February 21st, 1865, and died of chronic diarrhea March 13th, 1865. Medad Peck died April 17th, 1865, Washington, D.C., of wounds received April 2nd in Petersburg, Virginia. Nelson D. Chapin, hospitalized November 20th, 1864, for recurrent fever, died of chronic diarrhea April 24th, 1865, City Point, Virginia. Edgar Bryant, discharged for disability June 19th, 1865, died of dysentery July 17th, 1865, in Dorset, Vermont. Richard Sykes Lee died of disease August 19th, 1917, U.S. Naval Hospital, Brooklyn, New York. William McNamara died of pneumonia October 4th, 1918, Fort J, New York. John J. Toohey died of pneumonia following influenza in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on October 16th, 1918. John J. McBride, killed in action September 29th, 1918, on the Hindenburg Line at Bonny-sur-Seine, France. Clifford J. Copping died of pneumonia April 3rd, 1918, Camp Devens, Massachusetts. Myron A. Brophy, killed in action December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Horace Greeley Harwood, killed flying a Spitfire from England, September 7th, 1942. Elmer Kent died October 4th, 1943, from injuries received in action, European theater. Warren A. Jocelyn, killed in action September 16th, 1944, Schlossenbachen, Germany. George A. Felion, killed in action December 9th, 1944, France. Donald J. Tobin, killed in action January 19th, 1945, in the Battle of the Bulge, Dietrich, Luxembourg. Walter Lake Wade, drowned January 8th, 1946, off Laity. Stanley F. Hall, killed in action June 14th, 1952, Korea. Clifford G. Baker died September 6th, 1953, Korea. Francis George Payne died in vehicle accident during training exercise, May 13th, 1966, Yakima, Washington. Richard C. Thum, killed in action November 25th, 1968, Vietnam. Alan Francis Wilkins, killed in explosion of helicopter April 8th, 1971, near Bien Hoa Air Force Base, Vietnam. Let us take a moment of silence for all those unnamed that died for our freedom. May their souls rest in peace. Amen.
shall we sing our next hymn? Let there be peace on earth. Please be seated.
In Flanders fields. In Flanders fields the poppies grow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, while in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly. Unheard amid the guns below, we are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawns, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, but now we lie. In Flanders fields, take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to bear it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies blow in Flanders fields.
A personal note before I begin with America's answer. My father was born in 1890. I know you won't believe that because I'm such a young man. But it's true. He graduated from college in 1912, and you'll all remember that shortly after that, World War I began, and my father volunteered with the Canadians to go and serve in Europe. And so I'm going to read now the America's answer to In Flanders Field. In Flanders Field the cannon boom and fitful flashes light the gloom, while up above like eagles fly the fierce destroyers of the sky. With stains the earth wherein you lie is redder than the poppy bloom in Flanders Field. Sleep on, ye brave, the shrieking shell, the quaking trench, the startling yell, the fury of the battle hell shall wake you not, for all is well. Sleep peacefully, for all is well. Your flaming torch aloft we bear. With burning heart and oath we swear to keep the faith, to fight it through, to crush the foe, or sleep with you in Flanders Field.
Oh, say, and you
As is done in Arlington National Cemetery, a flag is placed next to all veterans' headstones. Ms. Kimmerizio, along with her students from Long Trail School, and Rob Peters, sitting right back here on the left side of the church today, assisted again this year in placing just short of 900 flags on veterans' graves this year. Rob, thank you. I wanted to take a moment of your time to extend a heartfelt thanks to Reverend Gray. 23 years ago, he welcomed me into this wonderful ceremony and this beautiful church with open arms. And having some pretty big shoes to fill, he made it easy. Thanks, Jim. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Mr. Salmon for providing our music here for the ceremony today, honoring all veterans past and present, and playing the organ and his bugle. Thank you, sir. For all the men and women serving in our armed forces, let us take a moment, Joe's son included, of silent prayer and pray for their safe return home to their families and to those who love them. Thank you. I don't want to steal a page from Reverend Gray, but I've learned throughout the years that I've been doing this that I better have a poem, because Reverend Gray always has some great poems. So Teresa and I were sitting up and we're trying to find a great poem, and I think we found one. So I'd like to share it with you at this time. I do not know your name, nor which battle you died. I do not know your home, nor the tears that were cried. I do not know where you rest, nor the promises broken. I do not know your uniform, and your fears lay unspoken. But I know your spirit exists, and that your courage is admired, and that your sacrifice is honored by each soul that's inspired. And I offer you from my heart, thank you to the guardians unknown for offering yourselves for all of us that we may keep freedom our home. God bless. Thank you. I learned from the best. This time I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today. Our guest speaker today is Al Lindsay. He was born and raised in Potsdam, New York, was educated at Middlebury College in 1968, and New York State Veterinary College at Cornell in 1977. He was an associate in 4 Vermont veterinary practices, and before retiring in 2013, Al was an associate in emergency medicine at Capital District Animal Emergency Hospital in Latham, New York, for 10 years. Between college and veterinarian school, that's quite a load, he was in the Navy and held the rank of lieutenant upon discharge. After Aviation Officers Candidate School at Naval Air Station, Pensacola, Florida, he was sent to Navigational School at Naval Air Station, Corpus Christi, Texas, where he earned his wings as a naval flight officer. Mr. Lindsay's final destination was Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, as a member of VW-4 Hurricane Hunters. During the hurricane season, his squadron was in Puerto Rico at Naval Air Station Roosevelt Roads. After his discharge, he spent 2 years in the reserves at Naval Air Division 2, located in Niagara Falls. It is my privilege today to introduce Al Lindsay.
I think you all know more than my wife knows about me now. I'm glad to be here today. Can you hear me in the back? Who am I and why am I here? You have just learned the vital facts about me, but you have yet to find out what I believe in, what I stand for, and how that reflects on what Memorial Day means to me. It is and should be a day of remembrance and honor for our veterans who have died in service to our country. But I also feel it is a day to recognize all our veterans. Many more that did return home also made sacrifices and faced many challenges as returning veterans in service to America. When I was a young boy in Potsdam, New York, Memorial Day was a great day. There was a parade with a high school band, horses and riders all decorated in various themes of red, white, and blue, and us young kids riding our decorated bikes with red, white, and blue crepe paper woven through the spokes of the wheels and streamers on our handlebars. We had to dodge the road apples donated by the horses in the parade. The parade ended at the village green with a ceremony of presenting a wreath, a gun salute, and the playing of taps, much like what is going to happen here in Dorset today. Then there was a picnic and ice cream. To me, this was just a day of family fun, until one Memorial Day, I noticed during the playing of taps, my good friend's father, Russ Long, a large hulk of a man, standing at attention, hand across his heart, and tears flowing down his cheeks. I became aware that something more meaningful was going on. There was a deeper sentiment than just having a celebration. I learned later that he was a Marine veteran of both Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima. Mr. Long was remembering, mourning, and honoring the brave men who sacrificed so much for their country. It left an indelible mark on his life. Now, neither my father nor grandfathers were veterans, so I had no direct connections to the fraternity of veterans and the deeper meaning of Memorial Day. My dad was classified, in fact, 4F in World War II because of a bout of childhood polio. Instead of being drafted, he was asked to teach navigation to aviators in training because of being a math instructor at St. Lawrence University at the time. Of course, as I grew up and became a veteran myself, I realized the scope of Memorial Day. My hobby is genealogy, and I found that most of my male relatives during the Revolutionary War period were veterans, and miraculously, none that I know of were killed in combat, but of course, all made sacrifices. I found a few who served in the Civil War, and oddly none that I know of in World War I, World War II, or the Korean conflict. Many of my ancestors were farmers and teachers, and their occupations might have been considered essential to the war effort, or it just may be that they were not in the right age bracket. I am a veteran of the Vietnam era, but never was put in harm's way, unless you call flying at 1,500 feet over the ocean in the middle of the night, pitch black, torrential rain, howling wind. It makes you think about possible harm. As a navigator, I was too busy to consider things while we were flying. In case you were wondering why it was so busy, in 1970, there was no such thing as GPS. So navigation over open water was done by celestial navigation and a sextant. Don't misunderstand me. I know that combat harm is completely different, and the paralyzing and terrifying fear of combat engagement was nothing that I ever experienced. I can vividly remember sitting in front of the television with my fraternity brothers, watching and waiting for my draft lottery number to come up. It did, of course, and I was drafted along with countless others, and I know personally many who never came back and some that came back changed forever, both physically and mentally. My knowledge of Iraq and Afghanistan is limited to what I read or saw on the news, because news media became so graphic. There was no escaping the events of that era. There was a significant change after Vietnam, and that was the number of women in the armed forces, and their new roles greatly increased. So what have I learned from my journey through Memorial Day? I know now that it is a celebration, but it's a solemn celebration. I know now that there have been many thousands of veterans throughout our history that should be remembered for the sacrifices they made and the contributions that helped to forge and defend our nation. Each man and woman have earned and deserve our gratitude, honor, and respect. We are forever in their debt, which can never be repaid except by our own actions of service and support. When I first attended this local service over 30 years ago, I was so moved by its simplicity, its reverence, and celebration. I have never missed one unless I was out of town or on duty at the emergency hospital. I told Jim once I played golf. It has always stirred me to hear Jim Gilbert and later Peter Davis read the roll call at our local service. And now, Jane Liberto will carry on that tradition. Thank you, Jane. Memorial Day is and will always be one of my favorite and most meaningful days of the year, especially here in Dorset. So now that you know a little bit about me and who I am, and through my consideration of Memorial Day, but why am I here? In addition to honoring our veterans, I would like to say a few words that encompass all of us. There's no doubt that we are remembering and honoring all veterans past and present who died in service to America, but I want to make sure we give the same attention to the largest group of veterans, those that survived, because their service also deserves our gratitude. In addition, there is even a larger group of people that deserve veteran status, the friends and families that supported our veterans. We all know that we all know what collateral damage is, the loss of life and suffering of innocent men, women, and children because of war where they live. Certainly you have seen enough on television about civilian casualties in Ukraine, Gaza, Israel, Sudan, Syria, and many other places. The casualties of innocent people are bad enough, but many more suffer because they have been ousted from their homes and left without food, water, electricity, sanitation, and medicine. We think we are suffering when the internet goes down. Can you even imagine what these people are going through? All they want to do is live in their homes, go to work, send their kids to school, have a family meal, and worship in peace and safety, but cannot because of oppressive government regimes or terrorist activity. It is notable to remember that 9/11 was an act of terror and totally intentional collateral damage. Recovery, if it is possible, could take years. These innocent people are veterans of a kind, in my mind. There's another group of people that are, to me, collateral damage, and this refers to you sitting out there in the sanctuary today. I would rather call this collateral consequences, because it is not always damaging. Collateral consequences can be positive or negative. These consequences are a change in plans, an interruption in life, an altering of goals, a new lifestyle, or a completely new set of challenges because of being a returning veteran to families, both personal and extended. I would wager that every one of you has been affected by a veteran directly or indirectly. Think about families forever changed by the death of a family member who is a veteran. It seems to me more devastating than a loss through accident or illness. A family with the unexpected loss of a son or daughter finds that suddenly there's a single spouse with children to care for, maybe a romance that never came to fruition, and children that were never born, possibly a business, a classroom, a pulpit, or a team left with no future leadership, a void that needs to be filled somehow. But how? Then there is a group of people that need to adjust to the return of the veteran. Most of the time, this adjustment just takes time and understanding, and life gradually progresses back to normality with a few bumps along the way. But many times, this is not true. A veteran can return with physical or mental challenges. How does a family adjust to a loss of limb, scarring from burns, inability to continue with marital intimacy, alterations and adjustments to education, occupation, a new handicapped living space, mobility issues, changes in social life, and routine family life have to be made? What about the veteran who returns with mental challenges, with depression that's so deep that it leads to chronic unemployment, alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic violence, divorce, and even homelessness? You are the people that rendered support, helped in many ways to meet these devastating challenges. The family, the spouse, the teacher, the coach, the clergyman, and the counselor all make tremendous efforts and adjustments in support for this veteran. Excuse me. It takes understanding, patience, strength, and time to give the support needed while all the time trying to carry on a normal family life. Most times there are great rewards in this effort, but there are times when hope is lost. You people out there who have been touched by collateral consequences are veterans also. Heroes for helping those we love on the long journey to health and wholeness made possible by your efforts. So why am I here today? I'm here to thank my fellow veterans for honoring me today. I'm here to give my gratitude to you veterans for your service to America. I am here today to give thanks and appreciation to you civilians who have given love and support to your families and friends facing collateral consequences. Of course, we are all here to remember and consecrate the lives lost. All of you, all of us here, veterans, on this Memorial Day. Thank you.
Shall we stand and sing our closing hymn, God Bless America? Before I offer the benediction, I want to reiterate the invitation after what comes next, whatever that is, to join downstairs for a picnic, a community-wide free picnic of all of the folks that are not only here, but who would be outside. I just see a fire truck pulling up on the front lawn. So congregationalism is very democratic. And so I think what we want to do is have a vote here and now for all those who want to parade up to the cemetery and have a wreath laying and some closing poetry and prayers up there. How many would like to venture forth for the parade? The majority. Good. So let us bow our heads for the benediction. Let us hold fast to what is good and true, and combat what is evil and lying. Let us love our neighbor as we love ourselves, and show hospitality to all, for what goes around shall come around. Let us learn what it means to sacrifice, and be doers of thy word and not hearers only. Let us shun greed, avarice, pompous pride, and corrupt power, and embrace that divine spirit of community that cares for the least, lifts up the best, and enshrines equality for all as a reflection on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.